And now, Fairfax Breakfast Club with your host, Basile Lemba.
Welcome to the Fairfax Breakfast Club show. My name is Basile Lemba and I will be your host. The Fairfax Breakfast Club is a weekly program in which we bring you valuable and workable know-how you can use to improve your networking skills and grow your business. We always start the show with a quote, and today's quote is from Abraham Lincoln. He said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." With us today, we have somebody very special, a very special guest who specializes in teaching people how to sharpen that axe. His name is Charles Bonuccelli. Hello, Charles.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, how about you?
Good.
Okay. Well, tell these fine people who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Charles Bonuccelli, and I am an ADVICOACH. Mm-hmm. And ADVICOACH is a business that I actually purchased. And let me give you a little bit of background about who I am, because it's kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I've been in industry for 35 years. Mm-hmm. I am a CPA. Also a chartered global management accountant. Mm-hmm. And over that time, I've been in the consulting area for most of my career. Gotcha. So I've been with a lot of very large firms, some international firms, and I've also been, local. Mm-hmm. And what I did is, over the years, is that part of what I was doing, I recognized, was that I was helping companies go through a coaching process. Got it. So that they would learn how to do what it was that I already knew how to do. And what I did is I work with a company called ADVICOACH. It's actually, I'm a franchisee. Mm-hmm. And ADVICOACH is one of the largest business coaching companies in the world. Right now it has 33% of the market. Oh. It's been doing it for about 24 years. And it kind of dominates the market. In relation to its competitors, there's about 400 coaches in the United States.
400 franchisees or 400 different coaches?
400 different coaches, because
really? That's all?
One of the franchisees can have more than one coach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting in that way. Basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to help business owners of small and mid-sized companies, increase their profitability, build an amazing team around them, and to free up their own time. And I think that this is a very important, because I think when you're talking about sharpening the saw, I think part of it, what it is that every business owner has strengths and every business owner has weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we can work on our strengths, and whatever that is, whether it's a technical skill or if it's a restaurant, it might be they're a culinary expert or whatever, but that doesn't mean they know how to do their books or they know how to handle the personnel issues or some of the front issues. So whatever their issues are, they can identify what those are. Those are the things that they need help with. And what we end up doing is that we work with companies to identify what their vision is, their vision of what their company, they want it to be, and to match that with their dreams. So part of it always becomes a very upfront process of strategic planning. Got it. And that strategic planning leads to all the other aspects, because what you do is get a picture of where you want to be and how you want your company to be. Mm-hmm. And then you take a picture of where you are now. And then what we do is we help people identify where they're not meeting that picture that they want to be. And then we also give them a plan of how to get there. Okay. And I think that that's a very important part. There are 5 business dangers. These are common to all companies. Mm-hmm. One is poor leadership skills. Uh-huh. If you talk about that briefly, that's basically what we're doing here, communicating. Uh-huh. And a lot of times it's not that there's the leader is really poor, but they don't have the skills set that they need to be able to show the leadership that they need to in their business. Okay. And you'll see that a lot of times when managers basically are managing other managers. Mm-hmm. They don't really necessarily have the skills that they need. They need direction from the top, from the owners of the businesses, to give them a focus so that they're doing what the business owner wants them to do. There's a very basic common danger is just underperforming sales. The sales force isn't as trained as they need to be. They're not making as many sales as they need to make. Maybe the pricing is wrong, or it could be a lot of other issues. The next area is like ineffective marketing. There's a lot of companies out there. One of the things that we always try to do is we try to identify, and this is for every company. I think you've talked about it a lot of times at the meetings. It's what we call the unique selling proposition. What is it about you? Why should I do business with you as opposed to someone else?
Gotcha.
That's very important for people to do that, especially in today's competitive market. For the small and mid-sized companies, they're competing against some very large companies, and those large companies, they can beat you on price just about every time, and when you're buying 100 of something, they're buying 100,000 of that same item. They can get a better price than you. It's hard to beat them on price. So, what is it that you're going to offer? And it could be the personalized interactions with your customers, maybe guaranteeing things that the big boys are just going to say, hey, we're selling it at the cheap price, goes out the door, they're going to forget about it. You're not. You're going to follow up with them. You're going to make sure it's working properly. You're going to make sure that they're happy with your product. So there's a lot of things that you can do to make your experience with your customers unique to someone else.
Gotcha.
There's a lack of human capital management. And what that really is talking about all the way from hiring people as employees to managing those people and getting the most out of those people. And there's a lot of just, one of the most important things in any organization is building a team. I know you've heard me talk about sports analogies, and in your Lax Expo you had a Doc Walker there, which was really great. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about that was that one, I'm a big Redskins fan, so I just love hearing him. But he's always an interesting guy to listen to.
Definitely, yes.
But a lot of it is that you build a team, and you have to build a team. And it's just like if you go out on a football field. Yeah, I used to be an offensive tackle. If I decided I wanted to go, to a play that was a running play to the left when they called the running play to the right, something's going to break down, something's going to mess up. It's not going to work. So you need your team to all be focusing on the exact same thing at the same time.
Gotcha.
And all the things that have to do with quality or have to do with interactions with other people, especially outside people, especially your customers, interactions within themselves.
Yes.
Making sure that they communicate well within themselves and that you set a certain level of expectation. And then the last is financial mismanagement. And when we're talking about financial mismanagement, like I said, I'm a CPA by training. I've been a CPA for 30 some years. So, and what we're really talking about is just the way you spend your money and how, are there ways you could better spend your money, spending it efficiently and effectively. There are a lot of times when we'll go into a company and they're having serious financial difficulties. And so one of the first things we might do, I told you there's normally the way we work is we start with a strategic plan and we go from there to get to your dream. But if you're worried about paying your bills next month, you're not thinking 3 or 5 years from now. You're thinking, oh, I need to do something right now. So, one of the things that we do is help them identify ways to increase revenues and reduce expenses. And the reduction in expenses it might be some short-term things that they can do and also some long-term things that they can do. And, to help them get out of their financial fix so that they can focus and get back the time that they want. And too many people who own businesses don't run their businesses. Who's running their business? Their business is running them. The business is making all the demands and they're reacting to those demands. And they're not really getting the most they can out of their business. I think that's one of the things that we try to work with when we're talking about coaching, is to get them to focus on the things that are important. And also, I always think it's interesting because there's things that you learn over your career. One of the things, there's some of them I can't repeat, some of them I can. The ones that I can repeat, just that there's 4 quadrants. There's the things that are important and there are things that are not important. There are things that are urgent, there are things that are not urgent. There's, no matter what you do, you have to focus. A lot of times, the things that are really important are not urgent. There's a lot of businesses go out of business. They don't last 10 years. In fact, about 45% of businesses go out of business in the first 2 years.
Oh, really?
So there are reasons that have been identified, and they identified that 78% of businesses lack a solid business plan. And to me, this goes back to a very fundamental thing, and this is one thing that Doc Walker was talking about, and that was strategic planning. One of the things that's really important is to identify what your goals are, but strategy is more than that. Your strategy is how are we going to get from where we are to where we want to be, but it's also then taking that strategy and getting it back down into some very tactical, basic things that you can do on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
A lot of people don't focus on that. And listen, I was one of them. I used to be an entrepreneur. I decided, I'm a CPA. I'm going to go out and be an independent CPA, and I'm going to do this, and I'll hang my shingle. Okay, where are my customers?
You come over here, you're my customer.
Open the doors. Come on, where's the customers? It doesn't work that way. So part of it is just understanding. I didn't have a real good business plan that identified all those areas that I need to identify. 73% are overly optimistic about sales. They're kind of like I was overly optimistic. They're just going to walk in the door. It doesn't work that way. You really have to go knocking on doors, and part of that is just you expect certain things to happen, whether you have a realistic reason to believe that or not. And part of it's getting them back to realism. 77% are not pricing their products or services properly. That means they could either be charging, for example, I could go out and say, if you're going to charge for a service, and say it's an hourly service, to make it an easy example, and say, I'm going to charge $1,000 an hour, because that's what I think it's worth. Okay. Now, I might think it's worth that, but other people might not think that it's worth that. So they might be looking at it and saying, well, if I'm getting this type of service, geez, I can get it for $100 an hour, so why should I pay you $1,000 an hour? So those are the things you have to look at in your pricing. Is you want to always make sure that your pricing is competitive for what you're offering. And the truth of the matter is, and especially with small businesses, we want to offer more than what it's really worth. So if we charge somebody $250 for something, a product or a service, we want them to get value that's more than $250.
That's right.
We want them to get something out of it. And then this is a big issue, which is 70% don't recognize or ignore their weaknesses and don't really seek help. One of the things that I always suggest anybody who's in business is to associate themselves, it's kind of like what we're doing here, with people who are other business people, and to seek out those that have expertise that you need. Because we can't be experts in everything.
Sure.
So we're not experts in finances, so we can hire a good CPA. We don't like to do the bookkeeping, so we can hire somebody to do that.
Gotcha.
We can do things and then utilize our time as in the best way as possible. And I think that that's extremely important.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that we do in coaching, and I want to make a distinction between coaching and consulting, because consulting is really a process where you give someone a project, and they complete the project, give it to you, you basically accept it, and then they walk away. Okay. Now the problem with consulting, and I was a consultant for a long time, so I was in this process, is that I could go in and I could help somebody write an employee manual or a business manual or something of that nature, and they would have it and they would take it and they would say, that's a great book, and they would stick it on the shelf and they wouldn't use it. Okay. Coaching is different. It's not that we don't help people with those things, but the coaching process is really kind of, first of all, identifying what is a priority that you need to take care of. Secondly, is identifying what you want to have as your end result. So, for example, if that end result is an employee instruction, okay, on how to do a certain aspect of their job, then we'll walk through what you need to do to make sure that it gets done properly. But you get the business owner to buy into it. So it's their product. It's not somebody coming out and saying, this is what you should do. It's the business owner says, yeah, this is what we should do. You walk them through that. You help them get to where they want to be. Okay. If you think about athletes, as a former athlete, one of the things that we always noted is we had to listen to our coaches. They were telling us what we needed to do to win a football game or to how to execute a certain play. That's what your coach does. They help you go through it.
Gotcha.
And they're there. We do review things. It's not like we aren't looking at things. We have a lot of tools. I think the one thing I love about ADVICOACH is that we have thousands upon thousands of tools. There's nothing that you can go through that we haven't experienced before.
Got it. Okay.
And that makes it very important. And then, one of the things that we really help people do is in this final step of the slide that I have is the 5 steps to business freedom. We start with irrelevance is when you have a concept of a business, and we get you to freedom to where that business is working for you.
Got it.
And that's really what most people really want from their businesses. They want to be in a situation where that business gives them some income, gives them a lifestyle, and gives them a group of people or team of people that they really want to work with.
Okay.
And that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Well said, well put. All right. Okay, well, now let me ask you this.
Sure.
What do you consider your biggest challenge?
What I consider my biggest challenge?
Yeah, look at your career, look at your life. What is your biggest challenge?
I think for everyone, it's pretty much the same thing. Right now in this economy, it's just getting customers and getting clients. That tends to be the biggest challenge because I think there's a lot more effort that you have to go through. One of the problems that you always have in a down economy is when people are very cautious with their money. Whereas people will spend a little bit more freely. 10 years ago, people would spend more freely. Now, they have to think about it. It's even when they want to do something, they're a lot more cautious about doing things. And cash flow is very, very important.
Got it. Okay.
Which is the result of getting customers.
Hopefully. So, and then what would you consider your biggest success?
My biggest success? My biggest success is really helping, have a client where I really help them go through a situation. It happens to be a government contractor, but it's to help them resolve a situation. Kind of coaching them through what their process is they needed to be, with the government and dealing with those regulations, which is a little peculiarity about my particular coaching business that you don't normally find. I'm actually a federal procurement expert.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
So it's something that I could do is coaching them through what they needed to do, what steps they needed to follow. And once, I always say one thing about doing something like that is once it's done once, they don't need to use me a second time. Okay. They know how to do it. And that's part of what coaching is too. It's getting them to the point where they're doing it, they can do it themselves.
Empowering
them. Yeah. It's a lot about empowerment. But I think a lot of things too is, being a business person there's a lot of frustrations in business, especially when you're not familiar with a specific area. It's good to have somebody you can call and ask and bounce things off of. It's extremely important to have somebody who can, if they don't have an expertise, that they can refer you to an expertise. Right. And they can help you move along and get past all your issues as they come up.
Okay. Now, a quick question I have: what ADVICOACH? What does that stand for? ADVICOACH. Where is that coming from?
Well, it's a combination of 2 words. One was advice, and one was coach. So it's kind of like if you think of consulting, it's just like we're providing advice and coaching.
Oh, okay.
So that's where they came up with the name to consolidate it.
Yeah, I always wonder what that is.
How the first person thought of that 24 years ago, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was actually thought of 24 years ago. It may have changed over the 24 years of time.
I got you. So. Okay. Now, we have the pleasure of having our breakfast club here in Fairfax, 3999 University Drive. And we have that, by the way, every second and third Thursday of the month. And you attended those events.
Yes.
Why don't you tell these fine folks over here your experience at the Breakfast Club?
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun, and it's also informative and entertaining, and you meet a lot of good people. Yes. And there's a lot of interchange. It's a very open group of people that come to it. Very willing to share information. It made a lot of good contacts there.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. And coming up, before we go into that, we have a section over here on this expo we have coming up on May 17. So we're going to run the clip over here so you get the information on it. Welcome back. So now you attended our expo.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it.
Well, it's in downtown Fairfax. Which,
the expo in Reston.
Oh, the expo. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was actually very, very fascinating. There were a lot of people there. There were a lot of people walking through there. Unfortunately, I don't think if you remember the last one, I was not moving around too well. I had a serious mobility issue with my back. I had thrown out my back. But just the people that were around me it was very fascinating. I got some very good information. There were all different types of businesses there. There were people across from me that were selling jewelry. And had a thing for jewelry. The person next to me was a person who did electronics. They actually helped me with something, so I was good to get some information. He gave me a book. I was just like, okay, do it yourself. But it was good. It was good. So I met people there, and then just people wandering through. Listened to Doc Walker. That was it was very good. He was talking about strategic planning and how important that was. And I kept trying to wave him down to my corner so I could say, would you stand here and say that? Because that's what I'm trying to push. But, it really is an important part, because I think most people don't really understand that all the studies that are done that just show that the people who plan and, set a goal, over 90% of the people reach the goals that they set. And it's amazing, because they actually did a study. I always remember this one particular study that was done at Harvard Business School. These people came out with their MBAs. And they had, of the entire class, only I think 10 or 12 actually wrote down what their goals were, but they had tracked them. And they said only 2 of the 12 that wrote down their goals didn't achieve them. Wow. But they were extremely close to achieving them. Wow. The 10 that not only achieved them, but exceeded them.
Oh, wow.
So that was just the idea of writing down what their goal was, and then just, there's a psychology to that. So when you have something in the back of your mind, I was watching a 30 on 30, which is an ESPN program. And Valvano, Coach Valvano from NC State, used to write down on a 3x5 card and put it in his pocket. His wife was saying this. And it would put all his goals that he wanted, and he would write them down, and he would carry them with him on a 3x5 card. And one of them was win the NCAA championship.
Oh, really?
Interesting. Which he ended up doing. So he said the last one he wrote, which he didn't do, was to beat cancer. But he fought all the way to the end, and that was the one thing that he was saying. So, part of it is set your goals and set your sights, and chances are you will achieve it. You might not achieve it on the original road you thought you were going to achieve it on.
Definitely, yes.
You might achieve it a lot of different ways. But, that's part of where coaching can help, because you're going to run into those roadblocks, and you need someone to help get around those.
Okay, good. Well, this is very, very interesting. I think you guys got, I hope that you was following, you get a lot of good information regarding the business. Very fundamental there, the goal setting them, and then getting some assistance, because it's a business has quite different areas, and it's difficult to master all of them at the same time. Production, promotion, sales, delivery. You couldn't possibly handle that by yourself, being that we only have 24 hours.
Right.
So you come to be limited, so definitely building the team become very, very key.
Yes.
In that fashion. So what last word advice you want to leave with our audience over here today?
Well, I think one thing is, if you have a goal, if you really want to be in business, remember what you originally went into business for, why you went into business. That will always keep you focused on why you have your business. Don't let your business rule your life. Let your life rule your business.
Very good. You got that. Don't let your business rule your life, but you take your life and allow it to rule your business. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the expo. The first April event, I don't know when this will show, April event. We'll have another breakfast event. I'd love to have you there. And then the expo on May 18 will have 100 exhibitors there and 400 to 500 business people. Definitely come on over. We'll be at a restaurant at Sunset Hills Road. Huge event. We double the number of seminars, and there will be food, there will be dancing. No, there won't be dancing. Photos, drinks, and there's going to be a lot of fun. Door prizes, so we're looking forward to have you there. Join us. Our website is right there on the screen, ultbizexpo.com. Again, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, have a very productive day. Thank you. Bye-bye.